Hello guys and welcome to another hangout. The subject is immoral trawling, which is I really don't know where they're going with this. It seems that the police, the CPS and the media can target anyone they want at any time, though it appears to be largely people in show business and the like, men of course. Women can't be falsely accused, but men overwhelmingly. And by and large, those who are not left wing, let me put it that way. Excuse the creaking table as ever. Russell Brand had a very unpleasant Christmas present because on the 23rd of December it was reported he'd been charged with two more offences, one of rape. I mean, two new charges allegedly took place in 2009 and relate to separate women, the CPS said. Yeah. This started with a so-called investigation by the Sunday Times, the Times and Channel 4's dispatches. Jerry Galbraith used to work for dispatches, so I think Channel 4 did anyway, but some of the rubbish they churn out, it just beggars belief. And earlier the same month, the DJ Tim Westwood appeared in court to plead not guilty to 4 counts of rape, 9 counts of indecent assault and 2 counts of sexual assault. I often wondered what's the difference between an indecent assault and a sexual assault, but there you go. And these are offences dating back to 1983. I mean, ludicrous. How are they meant to defend themselves against these allegations? Brand, there's only one that might give Brand, well, only one that should give Brand a little bit of trouble. That's what he hasn't been charged with because it was in California. He had sex with some woman who was named. I won't name her here. She went to a rape crisis centre afterwards to get some, let's say she thought she might have caught some infection off him to get free protection. And then suddenly she realises, my God, he raped me. No. I mean, if you walk into a public toilet with a man you've never met, or a man you don't know, or a man you know slightly, and do things with him, and then you cry rape, no. Ludicrous. This bloke Westwood, I can't say I've heard of it, much of him, but it's getting bad, this table, isn't it? And as I've said before, what will happen? They'll come to court, and to sum me up, the prosecution will say, none of these women know each other, so unless this is a conspiracy, ho ho ho, that man is guilty. And of course this is total BS. Which brings me to the ongoing nonsense about Jeffrey Epstein. I've got a clip here from Alan Dershowitz, which I'll play, which should put this into some sort of perspective.
Maria Farmer said she saw me once in Jeffrey Epstein's house before I ever met Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, she sees ghosts. This is a completely non-credible nutcase that nobody should believe. Just because it's in the files doesn't make it true. I'm sure the FBI looked into it and said, oh my God, this woman making a claim, what she said about Jews, what she said about people, of course we're not going to believe her. This is pure McCarthyism. The same thing that happened when I was in college in the 1950s. Accusations, yeah, we'll make accusations. But the same women, the same, what do they call themselves, survivors, who claim that they want transparency. They want transparency for thee, but not for me. They don't want transparency about the women who themselves were procuring young girls for Jeffrey Epstein and getting paid $250. They don't want that kind of transparency. They don't want transparency about women who collected $50,000 having not met Jeffrey Epstein ever in their life. What we want is total transparency. You can't have just the accusations.
Why can't we get total transparency? I mean, I'm all for that too. I mean, because we've now gotten ourselves down. We've got ourselves down the road far enough in this Epstein thing. I mean, why? You know, what's the objection to really full transparency instead of all those blacked out pages?
Is that a lot of these women who call themselves survivors, who call themselves victims, a lot of them were perpetrators, perjurers, liars. Lawyers got rich over this. That doesn't suggest that Epstein didn't do terrible things. There are real victims, but the real victims suffer from the Sarah Ransoms of the world who claim she had videotapes of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and Donald Trump having sex with children, Richard Branson, and then she has to admit she made the whole thing up. She doesn't have videotape. This is not...
That's one angry man, and rightly so. What he's talking about there is a mixture of trawling and claim farming. I made a video about claim farming and put a link to it below. Yeah, this has got a lot to do with corrupt lawyers. I'm reading here from a Court of Appeal judgment from the Bailey website, Civil Division, in the matter of the estate of Sir James Wilson Savile, deceased. This was hearing dates 4th and 5th of November 2014, and these are the people present. Mark Cunningham QC, instructed by Osborne Clark for the claimant, National Westminster Bank plc. Robert Ham QC and Teresa Rosen Peacock, Peacock with an E on the end, instructed by PWT Advice LLP for the trust. Keith Rowley QC, Piers Feltham and Justin Levinson, instructed by Slater and Gordon, they're totally corrupt law firm that, for the third and fourth defendants. Neil Block QC, instructed by Capstick for the sixth defendant. Andrew Warnock QC, instructed by DAC Beecroft LLP for the seventh defendant. Sir James Savile, better known as Jimmy Savile, died on the 29th of October 2011, and his will dated 24th of July 2006. He made a number of small gifts and pecuniary legacies that gave lifetime interest to 8 named beneficiaries in a fund of £600,000. The residue of his estate, including the interest in remainder in the settled fund, was given to the Jimmy Savile Charitable Trust, which was set up in 1984 to benefit a wide range of charitable objects. His estate was sworn for probate at a value of £4,366,178 gross, £4,298,160 net. National Westminster Bank was named as executor of the will and obtained a grant of probate on 8th of March 2012. After that very outrageous documentary, The Other Side of Jimmy Savile, women and men crawled out of the woodwork, out of the gutter, and a few of them out of the sewer to make all manner of claims against him, and it turned into a feeding frenzy for the lawyers. I don't know how much was left at the end of the day, but conclusion, paragraph 126. In summary, therefore, I will dismiss the Trust's appeal against the judge's order in respect of the approval application, removal application, and the section 284 bracket 1 order, but allow the Trust's appeal against the order for costs. You imagine what the cost would be. Most lawyers don't get out of bed for less than £100 an hour, and that's these lawyers will be a lot more than that. Barristers, QC, I mean, you know, forget it, QC. Well, KC now, but so it's a feeding frenzy for lawyers, and that's what Dershowitz was talking about. He mentioned Maria Farmer. He said she's a nut, a whack job. I put on the screen her complaint from 1996. As you can see, it's headed child pornography. Her name has been redacted. Complainant stated that she is a professional artist and took pictures of her sisters, 12 and 14 years, for her own personal artwork. Epstein stole the photos and negatives and is believed to have sold the pictures to potential buyers. Okay, there was an internet of sorts in 1996, but Epstein at one time requested to take pictures of young girls at swimming pools. Epstein is now threatening that if she tells anyone about the photos, he will burn her house down. Well, you can take that with a pinch of salt, or maybe a boulder. Now, Dershowitz dismissed Maria Farmer and her sister as whack jobs because she has, I'll put it this way, unorthodox beliefs, let me put it that way. But her allegations against Epstein have a certain consistency. I mean, this is headed child pornography. Well, where is the pornography? She took the photographs. And how is it pornographic to take photographs of 12 and 14-year-olds? Were they naked? Why was Maria Farmer taking photographs of her naked 12-year-old sister? If that happened. So who's a child pornographer? No, this is hysteria. This is. You can still find photographs of naked babies online. At one time, they used to be used to advertise toilet paper. One advert said, "Smooth as a baby's bottom." Yeah, but if you want to see real child pornography, they can look at some of the photographs of dead Palestinian kids, which have been posted all over the internet. That's worse than, well, I won't go into that here, but photographs of dead kids, fully dressed dead kids, is more obscene than photographs of live nude ones. The mainstream media is reporting on, and the loonies on the left wing of social media, reporting on this uncritically. All this stuff. These allegations really started with the now deceased Virginia Giuffre. I've just obtained a copy of her book. Well, she had an unpublished manuscript, The Billionaires Playboy Club, which you'll find on Document Cloud. But recently, her posthumous Nobody's Girl has been uploaded to his archive. There's two uploads of it. And she wasn't a whack job, she was a serial liar. I mean, in that book, she accuses her own father of sexually abusing her. An allegation never made before. Her father has appeared on TV. Doesn't sound very bright, but I've no reason to suspect him of being anything but a decent bloke. He supported her. Said that police should investigate Prince Andrew or something like that. The former Prince Andrew now. But nothing came of that. I mean, she came to England, she went to Europe with Epstein voluntarily. He didn't put a gun to her head. He put money in her pocket though. So many of these women have been in the media recently, calling themselves survivors. They're not survivors. There's no evidence Epstein ever killed anyone, so they're not survivors. You know, if a guy hires you to massage him and pays you $200 for it, you're not a survivor, especially if you keep going back again and again and again, even if you are only 14 years old. And a lot of these women, they were above the age of consent. And young, attractive women hanging out with extremely wealthy men, somewhat older or a lot older. I'm not saying I approve. This is like envy, if you like. I've left it too late now, but that's another story. But the rubbish they've been spouting. There was one that appeared on Sky News Australia recently, and she said when she was underage, she recruited something like 50 to 70 girls for Epstein. She kept going back to him. I don't believe how often this guy was massaged. I mean, massage is a good thing, especially if you've got muscular problems like me. But I mean, do you need a daily massage? Maybe 2 or 3 times a day? Seriously? And yeah, foot massages as well. There's a notorious photograph of Ghislaine Maxwell giving him a foot massage. Seriously? The left are trying to point everything at Donald Trump, of course, but it won't wash. There's so much rubbish in these Epstein files. There's one woman has accused Trump of raping her with Epstein and said he murdered a baby. And that moron David Pacman talking about it on his channel as I had some basis in fact. All these allegations, apart from the Maria Farmer one, were not reported at the time. And Maria Farmer, in that report, she makes no mention of being sexually abused by Epstein. As Michael Tracy pointed out, when she was this is when she was 25, she got into bed with Epstein and Maxwell, and later realised she was being abused. And as for her sister, who was 16 at the time, Epstein held her hand. I mean, this is what Ghislaine Maxwell is serving 20 years for. 20 years. I mean, as I've said before many times, she did stuff that was wrong. Her idea, her claim that she was totally innocent is BS. But in Britain, she'd have got 5 years top whack, and Epstein would have got much more. So if I keep yawning, as usual, it's a small hours. And I've had not a good day. Come back to Russell Brand. This whole thing, Russell Brand and this Tim Westwood. Any celebrity, any male celebrity can be accused at any time. And these clowns in the CPS and the police. Don't forget, these are the same people who look the other way while girls primarily in the north of England were being sexually abused on an industrial scale. Underage girls on an industrial scale. And they look the other way, yet they have a witch hunter, a dead man, Jimmy Savile. Because he was dead, they turned to live celebrities, trashed their lives. Rolf Harris, whose crime was to have an affair with a much younger girl, a friend of his daughter's, who claimed he started abusing her when she was 13, which was complete rubbish. That affair came to light, it was in 1997, and she never said anything for 15 years. David Lee Travis, who, what they did to him was outrageous. Even Gary Glitter, I mean, I won't usually sleep for Gary Glitter, but he was supposed to have attempted to rape a 10-year-old girl in the basement of a house that had no basement. And others, their names dragged through the mud. What they tried to do to Cliff Richard was outrageous. I'll put a link to that below. This has to stop. These men are easy targets for the police and for CPS, who really don't understand. I don't think they don't understand. I think if they can collect as many allegations as possible and present them as a pattern of offending. They'll get away with it, and they do, you know. It doesn't only happen to celebrities, it happens to teachers and carers as well, years and decades later. And these women who run these rape crisis centres, they go along with it. That Barbara Ziv, who testified at the Cosby trial, the Bill Cosby trial, the rape trauma syndrome garbage, which is a method of affirming any allegation of rape, however ludicrous. Somebody else is in the news is Harvey Weinstein. This is rather interesting. This is from Newsday.com. Harvey Weinstein accuser Kaja Sokola is being sued for defamation. The plaintiff, her sister. Two sisters testified at Harvey Weinstein's most recent criminal trial. Kaja Sokola accused the disgraced movie mogul of sexual assault. Il Sokola was called as a witness to boost their claims, but ultimately ended up helping the defence for all the good it did Harvey. Now, Il Sokola is suing Kaja for defamation, alleging in a lawsuit filed Tuesday in Manhattan Federal Court that a psychotherapist and ex-model's public remarks amount to libel on a damaging Il's reputation and business as a cardiologist in Poland. I don't see why, but there you go. Il Sokola says that her younger sister has made false statements subjected to public hatred, shame, contempt, ridicule, ostracism and disgrace in Wrocław. That's Warsaw, I think, Poland. She seeks unspecified damages. Messages seeking comment were left for Kaja Sokola's lawyers and spokesperson on Thursday and Friday. In a split verdict in June, Weinstein was convicted of forcibly performing oral sex on film and television production assistant and producer Miriam Haley and acquitted on a charge involving Kaja Sokola's allegations of similar conduct. Both women said they were assaulted in 2006. They said nothing at the time, because either because it didn't happen, or because it was consensual. They rewrote these sordid encounters in their tiny minds as rape. I think if Weinstein had taken a stand, certainly at his retrial, he would have been acquitted. But there's a photograph here of a smiling Kaja arriving at the court before Weinstein's trial in May 2025, May this year. These are just absolutely outrageous. What we need are statutes of limitations, which we don't have them. They do have them in certain American jurisdictions, European jurisdictions. These odious women and their odious lawyers and odious campaigners want all statutes of limitations removed. They want, in effect, any woman to be able to accuse any man of rape, any sexual crime at any time, last month, made 30 years in the past, and they want this guy convicted, regardless of the lack of evidence. She said, he denies. And they're getting their way to it. Well, they've had their way to a large degree. These are pathetic women, absolutely pathetic. If you don't believe that, look at some real rape victims. I was looking at one earlier of a young woman. She was a victim of a serial rapist, and she was a 18 or 19-year-old virgin when she was attacked. Absolutely outrageous. This guy got life in, I think, 120 years, something 60 or 120 years, something like that. And she waived her anonymity. They showed her testifying at the sentencing hearing, and she broke down at the end, but she was clearly, you know, as I've said this before, you take real victims and head cases, and the real victims shine, and the head cases and the liars, we've suffered so much. Anyway, I'll keep this one short. I've written to Russell Brand, I've emailed him a couple of times. Whether or not he takes my advice, I don't know. I hope he will be acquitted, because these cases shouldn't be allowed. Should not be allowed. And as I say, it's a feeding frenzy for lawyers, and these women appear out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere. The authorities should curtail the actions of some of these ambulance chasing lawyers. One big thing I would suggest is that there should be no civil action permitted in a case like this, unless a criminal complaint has been filed, whether or not that report's been acted on, or whether or not somebody's being charged, convicted. No police report, no crime, no civil action. Can't do that, unfortunately, but it should be. That should be the rule. We'll see how this plays out anyway. I haven't added much to the Full Soap timeline recently, but I hope to do quite a bit more in the new year, as ever, if I live that long.